Welcome everybody, and I was really pleased and honored when I was asked to talk to you today about AI transformation and transforming telcos, and especially on the question if telcos got the right data, in the right places to harness AI. And I would like to start that with a little picture that you see here, which is inspired by the great wave of Kanagawa, which I guess you might see a little bit recognizing here, but this is the Gen AI Swiss skiing interpretation of that. Um, so the great wave or the tsunami that basically I think was hitting us all globally um, on the 30th of November 2022. So pretty much in 3 days, 2 years ago, basically raised a lot of questions about what especially AI, Gen AI, large language models, and how it will transform our kind of business, our world, our also private life. And this is for somebody who has been very active in this area since quite some time, not all the back that you from the history that you see here, but somebody who has seen at least a little bit, some of these waves and also of not only the high sides of the waves, but also a little bit of this winter part of the waves where basically everybody lost confidence in that. This is something that is quite interesting to see how basically it's developed in the last years and also what we expecting to do. So the question that drives me a lot is, will we be able to ride this great wave that basically was hitting us pretty much now 2 years ago, or will be crushed by this wave? And so the opportunities and risks that we have in front of us are enormous, and they're coming and influencing us in a high speed and with high energy, and it's up to us what we will do out of that. Um, when we go back to the question a little bit, I want to put it a little bit extreme and provoke a little bit with the questions. Are we the last generation to ask this question? Have telcos got the right data in the right place to harness AI? And the reason to ask that can be, interpreted twofold way, because one could take the position that if we are not, maybe then telcos don't exist anymore as we basically know them today. We might need to change. Or basically it becomes so natural that, this kind of question will get pretty much irrelevant in the next generation. And this is where I would also like to ask, is the word telco still the right word, or are we not transforming more into techcos? And then also the question is basically at least to be rephrased in the future. And the three parts of this question that I was asked was basically to talk a little bit about, the raw data material. Is it ready to be used, and what needs to happen to make it fully usable? Um, I think I'll try to answer that a little bit. In which areas is the data the most advanced, in which areas require more work? I try to show this with some examples. And also on the other side, are we not going too fast? Are we trying to run before we can walk? And let me basically try to start answering that from three different perspectives that are very close to me and my career. And I will introduce myself a little bit more in the next three slides. On one side, basically trying to answer this from the academic sector, fundamental research, also from the public sector, basically, international regulation on AI is a big topic in that, but also from the private sector. And this is where my interest telcos, and this is where basically how this AI will play in the private sector plays out. So my name is Daniel Dobos. I'm currently the research director of Swisscom. I'm leading the Swisscom Digital Lab. together with one of my co-directors, which does the AI research for telcos and the tech co Swisscom since 2016 at EPFL, the university in Lausanne. We're collaborating with other research organizations in Switzerland, EPFL, ETH, but also have an outpost in Palo Alto and Stanford. We do also quite a lot of applied research implementation of state-of-the-art fundamental research in AI. But for the other perspectives, I had the pleasure and honor to work with United Nations on strategic foresight, especially on this topics of data and AI and the future of it, what can we expect there. But coming originally from a very technical background, where I was a particle physicist at CERN, where my main day-to-day job was to deal with huge data bandwidths of something like 80 terabytes per second, something that even, telcos for a long time had basically, much less bandwidths. For many years, we had basically more bandwidth than the entire bandwidth of the internet. Now it's changed, as you all know, since video streaming quite dramatically. But still, the goal was always to, with this huge amounts of data, to have AI and advanced data analytic decisions very, very fast, real time. We're talking about making something like, 40 to 200 million AI decisions, so-called inferences per second. Quantum machine learning is also one part that I basically worked on. So this is basically, I tried to look at this question that was asked, how basically we are as telco dealing with that from the three different perspectives. And we started that basically this kind of journey with Swisscom, with a partnership very, very concretely in 2016, together with EPFL, where we basically set up a digital lab. This was built on collaborations in Switzerland with AI research, which go back more than 30 years. For example, there was an research lab in Idiap, it's called in Martigny, where since 30 years we are one of the partners. And then basically we started to put 2018, 2019, all eyes on this new technologies that basically is today the transformers, that basically where the ground research work to allow all what we see today with ChatGPT and others. Basically, this is what I mentioned, the research organization in Martigny in Switzerland, EDAP, where we have been involved in this AI research since more than 30 years. And since especially the last 2-3 years, we looked more and more how can we do together research, applied research for telco, with universities, but then also with strategic partnerships like with NVIDIA that we announced this January in the AI house in Davos. To answer basically where we are using AI, this is on all kind of state-of-the-art technologies that we use in a telco. This is all kind of techniques like natural language processing since a long time, automated speech recognition, distributed machine learning, graph neural networks. I will show you an example. Anomaly detection, I will show you a little bit an example. And then what we are using it for is really in all kind of areas to provide to our customers a much better user experience, to understand our customers, to basically operate and maintain our network, to be able to use chatbots to communicate better with our customers, personalize the customer experience, but also then for our workforce to do advanced workforce management and do this in a cybersecurity and most secure, trusted way. I'll show you mostly today some projects from the area where I try to answer these questions if we have the right data and if we are ready to use that. From 3 focal areas, with mostly smart operation and maintenance, customer chatbot, and then customer understanding. And here you have a list of some master thesis works that we have been doing now 1 year ago together with research organizations in Switzerland, most prominent maybe EPFL in Lausanne, one of the top 20 universities worldwide, but also with more applied university. And to give you here an overview basically of different topics, I'll leave it here for a second, but you don't even have to read through because some of the highlights I will show you out of that. And to get basically a good understanding of what kind of projects we are working on, I would highly recommend you in Switzerland a conference, which is the biggest applied machine learning conference in Switzerland. It's called Applied Machine Learning Days, AMLD. Next edition will be in February next year, and we will cover there mostly topics AI and cybersecurity, but also AI and connectivity. And last year we have been, and I will show you some of this kind of results that we achieved there to answer these questions that we started with, is that we showed the power of data and revolutionizing mobile network optimization by two colleagues. We looked into generative AI and how it will revolutionize Swisscom customer care. And the third one that we will highlight today is a little bit, so what are the impacts of knowledge graphs and knowledge graphs that are really huge and going above normal applications that exist in many other companies that are not techcos and telcos. So one project that basically starts with answering if we have the right data and to do better customer experience. Yes, the amount of data that we as techcos, telcos really have goes beyond what most other companies, organizations have, but even in many cases, way too much, and filtering and smart filtering, compliant filtering, understanding for which purposes we can use which kind of data is a key aspect. And how this can be used basically for providing a better service is in the very simple case, really understanding how good is our service, in which areas of the countries, how can we optimize the rollout of, for example, in this case, mobile antennas with help of machine learning. How can we really optimize this kind of coverage maps that we have in a way that we constantly, improve our network and also move to the smartest network, which means also the most sustainable and energy saving kind of network. How can we, for example, optimize the use of cells in the night and maybe, switch off parts that are not needed to save energy? The second project that was highlighted there, I would like to highlight here a little bit, is about finding event sequences in large data streams. And you can imagine that there are multiple different use cases from that. This is purely from the network optimization. This is from outlier detection when one talks about security and cybersecurity. So basically, we see that in many different use cases as something where we look at it first as a stream of data that maybe we don't even have to fully understand at the very beginning, but we can start to look for sequences of events which maybe a human would not even find as something that is obvious to look for, but that basically are indications of certain events. This can be for predictive maintenance. This can be for something where we can avoid all kind of instabilities in the network by changing components or replacing components early enough. This can be in the area of cybersecurity, where some special sequence and maybe even timely distributed sequences are indication of some issues or potential threats. Or this can be really in optimizing our customer experience in the network. And this is where basically this kind of loop architecture really helps us to, on one side, find this kind of events, but always keep the experts in the loop. Large language models, I think, was discussed a lot, and also basically heard about RAGs, so retrieval augmented generation. This is something which is extremely important us for the customer care dialogues. So how can we automate basically the customer interaction even more so that our customers have a good experience, even if it's whatever Sunday morning at 5 o'clock, or maybe especially if it's Sunday morning, 5 o'clock, where basically they need our support in solving issues or challenges that they have. And we made very excellent experience with a LLM based chatbot, his name is Sam, where we not only have seen that this helps us to automate many processes that were very difficult to automate before, but that it also dramatically increased the NPS, the satisfaction of our customers of what they can do in self-service. This is a double-sided sword. I also have to put maybe as a warning, because once you start using this advanced AI, then also the expectation of the customers are rising with basically every kind of success story. And then basically the expectation is also very fast big that this kind of large language model based chatbots can then help them in any given situation. I mentioned that knowledge graphs is something that we are very interested in and exploring extensively, because with our huge infrastructures that you all know, it is very difficult to understand, what kind of issues our infrastructures might have. And so making multi-level abstractions of this huge amount of nodes and edges, so with dots and lines that you see here that describe our infrastructure so that the human can understand, was a topic that basically was presented and now really allows to understand much easier and much more in a human natural understanding how our infrastructure is built up, or where we have anomalies in this kind of infrastructure. So this is where graph similarity comes in, so that we kind of group how our infrastructure is rolled out, how it looks up, and then identify if we have some kind of situations where we installed or operate our infrastructure in a different, unusual way, maybe in a more risky way, or maybe in a way which requires more maintenance. And to understand this in this huge amount of data, this is where knowledge graphs and this understanding of similarity helps us a lot. I also use maybe last few minutes to show you some current research topics, and cannot show you also how we try to answer this question that was initially asked, if you're ready and if you're not going too far. I really want to show you some state-of-the-art research, but this also means that I cannot show you the full results yet. So you will see some of the pictures are still blurred, but in the next weeks, can tell you more details about that. So at the moment, we are really focusing on with something like 20 master students per year on how we can use AI for our infrastructure, the maintenance and energy saving, with conversational AI on generative AI, large language models, as mentioned before, on the strategy and business development, on all kind of data analytics, and then also for data AI and the interaction with security, cybersecurity, how to do secure analytics and collaborations. And you see some of the students that just successfully finished their master thesis with us working on such topics. Um, One point that I would like to add your attention to is synthetic tabular data generation with large language models. So as telcos, as techcos, collaboration with researchers, with other companies, with startup is something that is very, very difficult because by regulation, in most cases, we cannot share data for a very good reason. Don't misunderstand me. It is very, for very good reason, we cannot share data. But this makes also collaboration difficult. And this is where synthetic data generation can help so that one can create data that looks similar enough so that researchers, scientists, security researchers can look at this data and make conclusion out of this. And this is where basically we look into all kind of considerations of bias in this data. So do we have in this data some biases like gender, or are there some privacy risks with this kind of synthetic data generation? Here, intentionally blurred, you see some basically kind of data distribution from an original data set, and then basically a large language model on the right side created synthetic data set that looks very, very similar, has most of the features that basically this original data set has, but are totally secure in terms of privacy concerns. Graph anomaly detection, this is something that we showed you, we presented at the last Applied Machine Learning Days and will present again. The goal is really to see how we can work with this kind of huge databases, so knowledge graph databases, and find anomalies in there. I told you a little bit about the energy saving, and this is where we also did quite some advantage of seeing how can we do additional data savings, sorry, energy savings on our networks, and how we can use all kind of how can we use all kind of strategies, machine learning strategies to reduce the energy consumption that we have there. So to try to summarize a little bit, in the last minute, do we have the right data sets in the right places? I cannot answer for all telcos, obviously, and as you also know, there's a huge variance between different telcos worldwide. For Swisscom and some other partners that I've been talking about, I can say that we are really very close to that we have a huge opportunity to put AI and generative AI really in the use of the benefit of our core business, that we are exploring and operating some of this already today and exploring the future. And my advice to everybody who feels that they don't have the right data in the right place is it is not too late, but it's becoming close to be basically really challenging if you don't start to put now your data really available for all kind of AI algorithms, accessible and explorable. Then it will be very tough to, in the future to really keep up, and so the time for the groundwork basically is today.
Well, that was really interesting, Daniel. That's life right in the middle of it all. So we have a couple of questions from the audience. The first was from Masood, who asks, is there any research going on to secure telecom sites and to prevent theft?
I
Or
I
maybe
heard
it's not
about
a
several.
priority for you, I don't know.
Yeah. So I can answer with, let me try to answer in two parts. I think in Switzerland, this is not a big issue as a country where we have very rare cases of situations where this is necessary.
Mm.
Talking to some other colleagues, yes, this is always a concern, and where basically there's a lot of research going into monitoring and early detection of this kind of risks. Um, not in connection with AI, I would say. These are more classical kind of data analytics or surveillance techniques, or yeah, maybe in the area of where we could add some AI is if you want to do some automatic analysis of video recordings of a site, where AI can really help to, go through a waste amount of sites, a waste amount of video recordings, and identify early indicators of thefts or security issues before.
Okay, thank you. And Alexandra congratulates you on an excellent presentation and asks, can you tell us if and how the Swiss government supports fundamental AI research for telcos?
Yes, with great pleasure, and thanks for this wonderful question. I think I need to modify the question a little bit and try to answer it in two parts, and hope that helps to get a better answer. What I would try to separate out is fundamental AI research. I think the Swiss government is heavily supporting fundamental AI research for the universities, and Switzerland has a huge tradition of having excellent research on AI. Is that directly applicable to telcos? In many cases not. And we see now the results of good fundamental AI research support from 5 or 10 years ago. Do they support the use case and the applied research of AI in telcos? Yes, that's it well, but not at the same time. So these are basically two different streams of funding and support. So there's one fundamental support for universities, and then there's an applied support for the telcos.
Okay, and we have a fight. I'm afraid we've only got, you need to be quick with this. I'm sorry, Daniel, we're out of time. But Toyin asks, why is now the time to locate data appropriately for AI? What clock is ticking? I guess just
Yes,
stay competitive. I don't know.
I try to answer that very, very quickly, is because we are just at the beginning. We will see in the next years that there will be more and more and better models. If you now have basically your data sorted out so that you can go through follow this kind of evolution of better and better models, you will be able to change without any issues through this kind of better and better models. So it's a little bit the time of teenage love, I would say, basically, sort out your data, date a lot of different AI models in the next years, fall in love sometimes, but don't marry yet, because you will basically go through a lot of different AI models in the next years. So having basically the data
Is it
sorted
just
out
like a case
that.
of being ready to exploit opportunity
Yes.
as it comes up and as it suits your particular business and situation, I guess?
Yes, I will definitely agree to it.
Daniel, that was great. Thank you very much. Thank you to our audience for their questions.
Thank
Yeah,
you very
I
much.
think we look forward to catching up with you further down the line and see how it's all going. Thank you so much.